Sometimes history's greatest moments happen in rooms no one ever sees. In 1966 in Memphis, after midnight, two important figures of music history came face to face. What they discussed was never revealed. But after that night, both their lives changed. The summer months of 1966 were breaking points in the lives of both Bob Dylan and Elvis Presley. Dylan had completely disappeared following his mysterious motorcycle accident in July. In the public eye, he was folk music's rebellious poet, but after the accident, no one could get any news from him. Elvis was in the midst of a different crisis. He was known as the king of rock and roll, but now he was singing while appearing in Hollywood films. Blue Hawaii, Viva Las Vegas, commercial success but artistic dissatisfaction. His fans were looking for the old Elvis, and critics were starting not to take him seriously anymore. Both were facing a common problem. They had achieved success, but had lost themselves, their identities. Dylan had risked his popularity for art's sake. Elvis had risked his art for popularity's sake. And right at that moment, someone who would build a bridge between two legends came into play. Jerry Schilling was one of Elvis's closest friends. But at the same time, he had very extensive connections within the music world. He knew the people around Dylan, he knew the producers in Nashville, and he noticed the troubled period that both artists were experiencing at that time. Schilling had said this to Elvis in the living room of Graceland. "What do you think about this Dylan kid?" Elvis was looking at Dylan from a distance. His vocal techniques are strange, but his lyrics are real. He must be mocking my Hollywood songs. He's not mocking, Schilling had replied. Actually, he says he's influenced by you. He says if it weren't for you, there would be no rock music. This had surprised Elvis, because he had read about Dylan's transition to electric guitar, how much the press criticized him, how he was declared a traitor by the public. Elvis recognized this. He had gone through a similar process. Meanwhile, Dylan was trying to pull himself together at his home in New York. Was the motorcycle accident an excuse? Was it a real injury? No one had any information about this subject, but his disappearance seemed to be strategically orchestrated. He had distanced himself from the press's excessive attention, from the fans' expectations. When Dylan's manager Albert Grossman conveyed the offer from Jerry Schilling to him, Dylan was surprised. Elvis wants to meet with me? He just wants to talk. As two artists. Dylan had thought for a long time, Elvis Presley, the first rock and roll legend, the man who laid the foundation of his own musical understanding. But at the same time, the man who surrendered to Hollywood's system, who lost his artistic integrity. Okay, Dylan had said, but no one will know. On a hot night in August 1966, a small recording studio outside Memphis was waiting quietly. This small studio, opened after Sun Records, was perfect for secret meetings. Away from the city center, away from the press's radar. After midnight, a black Cadillac quietly entered the parking area. Elvis had dressed with a hat and sunglasses, in a way that no one could recognize him. But his walking style gave him away, that characteristic Elvis walk. 20 minutes later, an old Ford pickup parked. Dylan got out, jeans and t-shirt, messy hair. He hadn't changed at all. He still looked like a Greenwich Village folk kid. The two men met at the studio door. For a while, they just looked at each other. The father of rock music and rock music's rebellious poet, one trying to go from popularity to artistic satisfaction, the other trying to go from artistic integrity to popular understanding. "Are you that electric guitar folk kid?" Elvis asked in that southern accent. "Are you that rock star who sold out to Hollywood?" Dylan replied, but there was no hostility in his voice. There was curiosity. Both smiled at each other. The coldness between them had disappeared. They entered the studio. Jerry Schilling left them alone and waited outside. What they talked about inside was never revealed, but a few details of that night leaked years later. The studio was small. A piano in the middle, a drum set in the corner, several guitars hanging on the wall. Dylan took a guitar in his hand while Elvis tried the piano. When musicians come together, they first talk music. "What's this?" Elvis asked when he heard the chords Dylan was playing. "A song I haven't finished yet. It'll probably be I Shall Be Released." Elvis listened. The lyrics weren't complete yet, but the melody was strong, beautiful. There's hope in it, but it's also melancholic. "How do you do it?" Dylan asked. "How do you carry the love of so many people?" Elvis's face changed. "I don't carry it. It carries me. Sometimes it drowns me." And from that moment on, the conversation gradually deepened. Two men, in the most difficult period of their careers, shared experiences that only they could understand. Elvis told how much he hated Hollywood films. "Same character, same songs, same love stories. I feel like just a singing robot. Dylan explained how the boos at Newport Folk Festival felt. People who loved me started to hate me, just because I evolved. I sang the same song in at least 20 of my films, Elvis confessed. Different names, but the same song. I don't know how many times I sang Can't Help Falling in Love. I'm also tired of singing Blowin' in the Wind, Dylan replied. But people constantly expect it, as if I don't know any other songs. Around 2 o'clock, Elvis asked something, so how do you do this? How do you make your own music the way you want? Dylan thought, I'm not afraid. Or I'm afraid, but I do it anyway. I was afraid of losing my fans. I lost them, but I gained my music. You gained your music, but at what cost? It's worth any cost, because now I can look at myself in the mirror. After the conversation, both began making music. Dylan took his guitar and played some of his songs. The acoustic version of Like a Rolling Stone, an early version of Mr. Tambourine Man. Elvis went to the piano and started playing old blues songs. That's All Right, Mystery Train, before Hollywood Films, The Real Elvis. Dylan said, This is your real voice, not like in the films. This. Elvis nodded up and down in agreement. This is my voice, but people now want Hollywood Elvis. People don't know what they want. If you give them your truth, then they'll understand what they love. That night, two artists learned from each other. Dylan saw what an important and great musician Elvis was, the real talent hidden behind the Hollywood image. Elvis watched Dylan's courage with admiration, his refusal to give up his artistic integrity for popularity. You inspire me, Elvis confessed. Maybe I can return to real music too. You're already a real musician, Dylan replied. You just need to remember. Towards 4 a.m., both were very tired now. They had talked for a long time and made music together, now understanding each other better. This night never happened, Elvis said as he was leaving. What night? Dylan smiled. Both had agreed that they would take this secret to their graves. The months following this night became a turning point for both Elvis and Dylan, but both went in completely different directions. Dylan returned in 1967 with the album John Wesley Harding, a calmer, more sincere album. He was no longer trying to shock anyone, just making real music the way he wanted, as if he had made peace with himself that night in Memphis. Elvis experienced a more complex process. He continued with Hollywood films, but at the same time started making plans to return to real music. The 1968 Comeback Special, one of the most important music programs in television history, was perhaps the effect of that night. In the Comeback Special, Elvis took off his Hollywood costumes and wore a flashy black leather outfit. With the acoustic guitar he took in his hands, he sang his old songs. The real Elvis had returned. Just as Dylan had told him that night, give people your truth. Jerry Schilling said years later, Elvis changed after that night. He became more confident about music than before, as if someone had told him, you are a real artist. Those around Dylan also noticed a similar change. Albert Grossman. Bob returned from Memphis different. He was now noticeably more peaceful, as if he had faced a big question and found its answer. But what they talked about was never revealed. It remained as a private moment of two great artists. When Elvis died in 1977, Dylan was giving a concert. That night, before going on stage, he told the musicians, tonight we'll all play for Elvis, for the real Elvis. At that concert, Dylan played an acoustic version of Elvis's song, Can't Help Falling in Love. It was never recorded, but it became a special moment that the thousands of people there never forgot. In 2004, Dylan was asked in an interview, what do you think about Elvis? Elvis. Elvis is the father of rock music. Without him, none of us would exist. He was a very great artist. Hollywood consumed him, but the real Elvis never died. Did you ever meet? Dylan remained silent for a long time. Elvis would meet with everyone, but very few people met the real Elvis. He didn't give a clear answer to the question, but there was something in his eyes, as if he was keeping a secret. Jerry Schilling wrote a book about Elvis in 2010. In the book, there was only one paragraph about that night in Memphis. Elvis, during the most difficult period of his career, had a private conversation with an artist who inspired him. The details of this conversation were never shared, but its effect lasted a lifetime. No other details. Some music historians claim that this meeting never took place. Evidence is insufficient. Witness statements are contradictory. But some believe, because the change that both artists experienced after 1966 points to such a meeting, maybe the truth doesn't matter. Maybe what matters is that two great artists understood each other, that they shared the loneliness that fame brings, the tension between art and popularity, the difficulty of trying to stay committed to being real. The summer of 1966 will remain as one of the mysterious nights in music history. Did two legends meet, or is this just a beautiful story? We don't know. But we know this. Real artists always find each other. Time, place, fame don't matter. Art is universal, and maybe that was the real meaning of that night in Memphis.